Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Mad Knitting YouTube channel. My name is Susan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and you can find me online on Instagram as madtown_mama. I'm on Ravelry, if that is a site you can use, as madtownmama without the underscore. And I'm here to chat about knitting for the most part. Today is June 14, and I'm coming to you from Madison, Wisconsin, where we are having a heat wave. It's just awful today. The heat index is going to be way over 100, so I hope everybody is safe out there. We actually had a pretty big storm roll through yesterday, so there are a lot of people around that don't have power, which is especially dangerous because it's so hot. And I was out and about yesterday afternoon after the storm, and there were trees down everywhere, and on the east side a tree actually fell on somebody's house and destroyed it. Fortunately that person got out safely, but yeah, it's just kind of scary out there sometimes. So I feel lucky that we didn't have any damage, and we do have air conditioning so we can stay safe and cool, but it's been a little bit of a wild week for weather, even though it is only Tuesday. I will share what I'm wearing. It is such a hot day that I have this linen top. I made this a while ago. It's seen a lot of wear and use, but it's called the Gemma tank top, and it's a pattern from Made by Ray. I used a linen fabric that I got on like a remnant table at a local fabric shop that is no longer in business, sadly. And I love how it fits. It just fits me really well, and it's really comfortable. And for a long time now, I've had plans to make many more, and I just haven't. So maybe saying that out loud will be the impetus for me to do so. I don't know. Anyway, today I have one little finished object and just a couple of works in progress to show you. So this might be, we'll see, this might be a shorter episode, but I usually end up yammering on, so we'll see how that goes. So my one finished object is this pair of socks. I've been working on these, I think they took me about a month from start to finish. They go pretty quick because it's just a plain sock pattern or basic sock recipe. I don't even use a pattern. These were my go-to project when I had concerts to attend or meetings or whatever. So I do a lot of socks this way, so I don't need the instructions. Like I said, I just cast on 64 stitches for the cuff, do a 2x2 rib for a little while, switch to stockinette. For the heel, my favorite way of doing a heel is for the heel flap, I do 3 stitches of garter on either side and an eye of partridge slip stitch pattern. Then there's the heel turn, and then I decrease every other round back down to 64 stitches. And then when I get to the toe, I have learned that I don't really like grafting toes. I know there's a way to prevent those little corners that stick up, but I have been using the method that Susan B. Anderson has in her smooth operator socks pattern, where when you get to the toe, you just knit 2 together all the way around and pull the yarn through, and I think that works out really well, just as well as grafting the ends, and it's a little easier. So that's how I do my socks. This yarn, can't remember the colorway, misplaced the label. Pretty sure the brand is Casual Fashion Queen, and I bought it at a yarn shop that is totally out of business now. So that's what I have to say about these socks. They're my only finished object. I was hoping to have another finished object to show you by now, but you'll see why it's not done. I think though I will go to my first work in progress, which is another pair of socks. So if you've been watching for a while, you may recall that I made a pair of socks for a friend, and I decided to make up the pattern, and I want to write it up as a design, but I gave away the socks and I have some sketchy notes someplace, so I need to do at least a couple more pairs to get everything down and make sure that I know exactly what I'm doing. So I started another one last week, and here it is. This is yarn that I dyed myself a long time ago. I'm trying to remember, I don't even remember for sure where I got it, because whatever label there was is long gone. It might have been from elan.com. I don't know if you all know that site, but used to be a website that I checked out a lot. And they had some bare yarn, and I'm pretty sure that's where I got this. So I used food dyes. I went through this jag, I know my kids were really little, so it was a long time ago, where I was dyeing yarn with Kool-Aid, and then I went and got Wilton's food dyes because they had more colors available. So between one or the other, I ended up with this orange, and I really like it. It's like this bright sort of goldfish orange color. I feel like the pattern doesn't show up as well as I expected it would though. It's actually showing up better on screen, I think, than in real life. So we'll see how it goes. The thing about socks is that despite having, and some of them are behind me, books full of sock patterns, I almost never actually use a pattern. And I think it's because for me, a sock project is one of the main go-to on-the-go projects that I have. So I really like having at least one small project that I don't need a pattern for, that I can just pick up and put down when I am waiting for something, or passively attending something like a meeting or sitting in a performance. So the result of that is that I'm not very familiar with most sock pattern instructions. So one of the reasons I want to write up this design is because I think it'll be a good exercise for me to have to articulate exactly what I'm doing. And I also want to make this how do I say this? I want to make it available for a really wide range of sizes and yarn weights. I'm not doing anything innovative here. It's a top-down sock. It's going to have a traditional heel flap construction, and I just sort of slapped a stitch pattern on it. But I'm trying to figure out a way I can write it up so that you can have a range of stitch counts, yarn weights, foot sizes, and you can just kind of plug in your numbers and get a sock that fits you. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that exactly. And where I'm running into, like when I'm thinking through it, it's the heel flap, I think, that's tripping me up, because I know how I do it in my brain, but making that make sense in a set of instructions, I think is going to be the challenge for me. So I had said in an earlier episode that I wasn't sure that I wanted to go to all the trouble of getting test knitters and finding a tech editor. I'm like not even close to that stage yet, but I think that I if I want to put this out there in the world, whether or not if I ask for money for it, obviously need to go through that whole process. Otherwise it's not fair to people who might want to purchase a pattern. But even if I offer it for free, I think it might be worth at least finding a tech editor who can help with the language and the numbers and stuff. So anyway, so to recap, what I like about this design that I've come up with is that it's totally symmetrical. Wow, it does not want to focus. It's totally symmetrical. It has this faux cable running down the top of the foot. And the cuff starts with a 1x1 rib, and then I move into a garter rib for the back of it. And then these stitch lines will continue in the slip stitch heel all the way down. So it'll be really nicely proportioned, I think, and have some clean design lines. I just have to figure out how to write it up. So that's my work in progress number 1. Work in progress number 2, I have shown you before, at least once, maybe twice. And I'm having some issues with it. So first of all, here's what I got. This is the Buffalo Rose Tea. It's by Carol Chan of Casey Knitting Co. And I fell in love with this colorwork design that goes along the bottom. I love that big scale buffalo plaid checkerboard thing happening. I love that there's roses overlaid. I knew that the color work was not going to be very easy to do, and I was right, because there are long floats. This whole part with the roses, you've got 3 strands going, which takes some knitting acrobatics. I did learn, and I mentioned this last time, but I'll show you the inside again. I did learn how to do ladder back jacquard technique, which got cleaner as I went along. I don't know if you can tell here, but basically what you do for that, and I don't have a good tutorial to link, but if you Google it, you can find them. Basically, when you get to the point where you have those long floats, for every stretch of many stitches where you need to catch those floats, the first round you will take the contrasting yarn, the one that you don't want to show, and with a backwards loop you'll cast on an extra stitch, and then as you're working every round, every time you come to that extra stitch, you pull all of your working yarn to the front, whether that's 2 or 3 strands. You purl that extra stitch with the contrasting yarn, move all the yarns to the back again, and go on your merry way. When you are done with that section, and this is, I think, what I failed to mention last time I was talking about this technique, when you get to the end of that color work or the end of the section, you know, that column of stitches where you need those long floats caught in the back, you knit the extra stitch together with the following stitch on the left needle, and like magic, everything just goes to the back of the work and you don't see it through. I mean, you cannot see those stitches through this side of the color work. So if that explanation didn't make sense to you, I'm sorry. I've heard it explained on podcasts, and every time I heard it explained, I thought, I just can't make sense of that. So I would recommend looking up a tutorial if you use that technique. But I think it's a real game changer. From now on, if I have 2-color knitting that has long floats, that is what I'll be doing to manage it, rather than trying to catch them in the back, because I think this just works a little better. Now I'm having issues with the top part of the sweater though, and that's just really bugging me. So first of all, you I did a provisional cast on for the sleeves. I don't think the pattern calls for provisional cast on, but I knew I wanted to make them long sleeves because this is wool and it's going to be really warm. And I originally cast on the number that the pattern called for my size, and I could just tell that they were going to be way too big. I mean, when I did the math with the gauge and I had gotten partway up the decreases and I tried it on, and they were just really, really ballooning out. So I don't know if it's just my proportions or what. The raglan decreases are such that if you cast on, at least for the size I was making, for the sleeve size exactly that she calls for, you have to do way more decreases along this sleeve line than along the front / back of the sweater, which is sort of a clue to me that you probably have too many stitches on the sleeves. So anyway, I could tell it wasn't going to fit me in a way that I liked. I really don't like balloony, voluminous sleeves at all. I like them to just fit. So I ripped it back. I picked up fewer stitches around the sleeves. I adjusted the decrease rate going up, and that all seemed fine. Well, then I got to the neck, to the instructions for the neck. And in the pattern, all she says is switch to smaller needles and do 2x2 rib for however much. So there was no neck shaping whatsoever. So basically it's this raglan shaping with different rates of decreases for the sleeves and for the bust part. But then when you get to the top, it's just kind of this funnel. So I knew I wasn't gonna like that. I don't like the feeling of sweater necklines where the front and back are the same, because it feels like the front is too high and the back is too low pulling back. It's actually a pet peeve of mine when designers don't offer any kind of neck shaping. I understand that it can make things a little more complex if you have to add short rows or whatever, but I mean, this part was really complex and I got through that fine. So I added some short rows to raise the back neck by about 1.5 inches, and I switched to smaller needles and I did a 2x2 rib, and then I tried it on and it was just really gapey and kind of floppy and stretchy. So even though the back neck was a little higher, it didn't look right. So I pulled it out and I thought, okay, maybe I just need to decrease enough stitches to make the neckline just a little bit tighter, and I'll do 1x1 rib, because I think maybe that will pull in a little more and not be as floppy as the 2x2 rib. So I did that, and it's better, but it's still too high in the front. It's just not working. And you know, a neckline can really make or break a sweater. If it doesn't fit right, it can just throw the rest of it off. So a lot of this happened on Sunday morning. I did about 2 or 3 different iterations of the neck. I've started on the sleeve, which is fine, except I think I might have to pull back and decrease a little bit less at the top, because it was getting just a little tight kind of around the elbow area, which that's all me. That's not even part of the design. But there are enough frustrations with this that I have set it aside for now, because I need to figure out what to do. I went to way too much work on this part, and the raglan part fits fine. To just have a neck that rides up and looks funny. So I think what I need to do, I know what I need to do. What I need to do is rip back to about 1 inch below where this neckline starts. So that's gonna be ripping back the short rows I put in and some of those decreases. I think I need to bind off some stitches in the middle front, just so that, you know, the neckline starts here. And then I'll keep working back and forth with the decreases. I'll make sure that the back goes as high as I want. And then after all that, I'll pick up stitches all the way around and do the ribbing. And then I think it will be fine. So I know how to do that. I can figure it out. It's just a little more brain space than I want to spend at the moment. So I guess I would say, if you're planning to knit this pattern, watch out for the sleeves. I can't speak to every size. I do know that she carefully charts out the decrease rates for sleeve versus bust for every single size. So she did put a lot of thought into that. She does have a lot of detailed notes about how important row gauge is to make sure that those decreases, you don't end up with a yoke that's too short or too tall. I'm just disappointed that there wasn't any more attention paid to the neckline. So watch out for sleeves. If you don't like the sort of plain straight funnel neck, you may want to adjust the neck. But otherwise, it's a really cool pattern and it's got a really beautiful color work on it. Very striking. I believe the designer is also working up the same color work for a yoke sweater, so it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. She was asking for testers maybe a week or two ago, so that's my Buffalo Rose tee. I don't want it to sit in hibernation forever. It just needs a little bit of a timeout. My last work in progress, after I got all frustrated with that and I saw the weather predictions of this heat wave coming, I decided it was finally time for me to cast on a like a summer top, which I rarely knit those. I don't know why. I do know why, because summer yarns are kind of a pain to knit with. So case in point, I showed you last time a swatch. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah. This is my swatch, such as it is, using this yarn. It's hemp for knitting. It's 100% hemp. I bought it a long time ago at a yarn shop that is no longer in business, if I even remember the place that I got it. It's this lovely dark dusty teal color. And I don't even remember what my original plans were for it, but those have gone by the wayside. So anyway, I swatched for the Heart of Glass pattern. I'll put a color picture in because obviously black and white here isn't going to show up as nicely. But you can see there's a sleeveless version or a version with sleeves. You can choose your length. But it's knit up at a sport weight gauge. So I think you could use a fingering weight and knit that up a little looser. This is fingering weight yarn. And when I swatched, I started with a size 4 needle and the stitches were huge. So I went down to a size 3 needle and it was better, but the stitches were still way too big. And then I thought, I can't believe I'm gonna have to go down to a size 2 needle to achieve a sport weight gauge, but that's what I did. And indeed, I can't promise that it's like bang on, but I like how this looks with size 2 needle, so that's what I'm going with. So this is what I've got so far. It's knit top down and there's some short row shaping to get the neck and shoulders and stuff, and you cast on the back and do some short row shaping and knit down to the bottom of the armholes, and then you pick up on the shoulders and do some magic to get the front. So I have done the back, top part, and then I've picked up stitches for the left front. And as you can see, I've done some short rows. My picking up stitches is not beautiful. I don't know how well you can see because the light is kind of shining through, but yeah, that's at my shoulders, and my hair will probably cover it anyway. So far, so good, I would say. The instructions are clear, very detailed. One of the nice things she does, and I don't think this is giving away secret sauce because I'm not showing you numbers, anything, but on the last page of the pattern, she has pictures of what the top of the sweater should look like at different stages of construction. Because I think it's, when you're just looking at the words, it's not always terribly clear how things should be coming out. So I really appreciate that. The designer, I can't remember her name. It's Lyrical Knit. Lyrical Knits is the name of the design company. That's like her brand. And I think it's called that because she is trained professionally as a singer. I don't think that's her like day job, but she sings professionally, which just is cool to me. That's like I've worked with a lot of singers, and that's just something I really like. So anyway, so this is what I've got. I'm hoping to finish it. I don't know, if I'm really ambitious, maybe I can get it done like in the next week or so, because it would be really nice to have a summer top to wear in the summer. I don't know where. I work from home. I don't get out that much, but I also like the idea of using up this yarn that's been in my stash for quite a long time. So that is what I'm working on. That's all the knitting that I have done and that I have to share. I don't always like to talk about my knitting plans because I make plans and then they change. I know that I've shared some stuff in past episodes where I'm like, I really want to make this, and you haven't seen it because I haven't started it. But I do want to share about a knit along. It's called a knit along, but it's really a make along. You don't have to knit. You could crochet or weave or whatever. That I do plan to participate in. I'm not ordinarily a joiner, but the YarnyX podcast, which I have mentioned before, every year around this time, they host what they call the Colors of Fall Knit Along. And it starts on the June solstice and runs through the September equinox. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, that runs through the entire summer, starting with the summer solstice, ending with the first day of fall. And in the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite, but obviously you can participate wherever you are. But what they do is they take the fall and winter color palettes for London and New York from Pantone. I don't know how these things are decided, but you can like look at the color swatches online. And to participate, you make something in that time frame, starting in June and ending by that date in September. And it needs to have at least one of the colors in those palettes. They also included the spring summer palette for New York and London, so there's a whole lot of options. And to be, to count as being in the color palette, like if you squint at it and you can see it, they say that's good enough. So you make something from start to finish that has one of those colors in it, and then to enter, you have to enter a photo of the finished object styled somehow. So you can be wearing the item, you can do a flat lay of the outfit it would be with, if it is not an item of clothing or an accessory, if it's like a home thing, like say a pillow or a pot holder, just make sure it's, in the space you would use it, for example. So it's really loose guidelines. It's a really fun knit along. And I plan to participate because they're just such a fun group and it's not competitive or anything. The other thing is that those color palettes, especially when you look at all four of them, so fall, winter, and spring, summer for both New York and London, there is some overlap, but there are a whole lot of colors to choose from. So you're gonna like some, you're not gonna like some, but there will be something for everyone, just about. So I've had lots of ideas running through my head. I don't know precisely exactly what I'll make, but I have picked out a couple of yarns that will be good small projects, travel projects, meeting projects, and I think those will for sure end up on the needles starting next week. So I'll show you those. I definitely want to do some sweater planning. I definitely want to make some things for my nieces, but I haven't really settled on what that is yet, so I won't share about that yet. But I will share my plans for the first couple things. So I went to Knit Circus Yarns when they had some stuff on sale. Knit Circus has a very big presence online, but lucky for me, they also have a brick and mortar shop that is pretty local to me, and I love everything about their business. I know the original owner. They're just fantastic in about 1,000 different ways, and they make some beautiful yarn. So I picked up these two things on the sale shelf. They are both Opulence. The Opulence base, which is merino cashmere nylon. And they were on sale because this was a misdye. This was maybe a discontinued color. But I really like how they go together. So this is like a really pale blue with a greenish tint. I think it's probably showing up more blue than green on the screen. And then this is called My Funny Valentine, and you can see it's a gradient from kind of a light pink in the middle to really, really dark. Normally I'm not a pink person, but this is close enough to magenta, I guess, that I like it. And I really like how these go together. So I think I will make a 2-color shawl. And right now I'm trying to decide between either At Dawn by Joji Locatelli. That's a pattern I own, and I've actually made it before out of different colors but the same yarn base. So I have a pretty good idea of how that would turn out. Or I might make the Livy shawl by Tammy Gore, and I don't own that pattern yet, but it's, you know, easy to purchase online. But it's, I'll throw a picture here, but it's got some striping. It's a really good way to use gradient yarns or highly variegated yarns because there's sort of a striping pattern. So I'm leaning towards Livy just because it's, I haven't made it before, so it'd be nice to try something new. But I think these together will become a shawl. For me or for someone else, who knows? I make a lot of shawls. I don't always wear a lot of shawls, so we'll see. The second idea I have, and this is, you know, not super creative or interesting, but I got a bunch of Felice yarn last summer when it went on sale, and it's a really, because it's self-striping, it's from Knit Picks, self-striping, pretty affordable. It's just a really good thing to have on the go. This one's called Red Rocks. It's a fun, bright set of colors for summer. There's yellow, orange, dark pink, medium pink, actually kind of same pinks as here. I don't know why I'm drawn to that lately. But I'll probably just cast on some stocks and have them on the go. So I cannot remember the names of all the colors in the palettes, but they will have been on the bottom of the screen as I'm talking, and I will also link to each of those palettes in the description box below, just in case you're interested in checking it out. And I will also put a link to the Yarniacs podcast website, not the Ravelry page, because I know not everybody can use Ravelry, but they have like a blog webpage that you can check out all their show notes and stuff. So I'll make sure I link to that. And I think that's all I have to share today. So thank you for joining me. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.